Hello, and welcome to this week's book club episode of Star Wars Dark Disciple by Christie Golden. If you're not familiar with this series, go ahead and check out the link in the description, but basically we're going through this book a couple of chapters at a time, talking about the themes and happenings, and kind of breaking down the nitty-gritty of just what's going on in the book. Today we are discussing chapters 32, 33, and 34, and with that, let's get right into it. Where we pick up this time is Obi-Wan, Anakin, Quinlan Vos, and his friend Desh are all going off on a mission to find a separatist storehouse. Last week they had arrived there to very little resistance, which was very surprising. Now they are looking through this storehouse, trying to find the different supplies. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Desh prepare to load up some of the supplies so that the clones can take them back and share them throughout the Republic. Quinlan goes into the caverns to try to investigate, see how deep the storehouse goes, see what goes on. All of it seems to be going really well when out of nowhere, Vos calls them all up on the radio and says, "Oh my gosh, we found a bunch of bombs and we have to get out of here now." The Jedi race to get out of the cave. Vos gets out in the nick of time, and it seems like this may have been a trap all along. That perhaps Dooku didn't want any of this getting into the hands of the Republic, so he set the place to blow should it be discovered. Desh stays behind to investigate to see exactly what happened, and the other three Jedi return to the temple. This sets off a chain of events that are going to lead the Jedi to question some of the things that are going on right now. However, it seems Vos either made some sort of pit stop or took off again as soon as he got home, because he finds himself in the very same bar that he met Ventress in way back in the beginning of the book, and runs into her there and they have a conversation. It seems Ventress herself has gone there. She was trying to basically come to terms with all that she had lost, what she feels like she no longer has with Vos, thinking maybe if she went to that bar she could find some closure, and instead she finds Vos himself and they have a conversation. Vos now owns up to that he had actually gone to the dark side when she encountered him in Dooku's lair some time ago, and that what he told the Jedi was not entirely true. That he was not playing along the whole time, that he had succumbed to the dark side, but that he had come back from that point. So what she had sensed in him was absolutely true. It's just he wasn't ready to tell everyone else that. After he worked with Dooku for a time, worked under Dooku for a time, and both saw how bad Dooku was, but also, I think, would have gotten an understanding for what Ventress went through working for Dooku, and how that could have led her to do the terrible things that she did to someone that Vos cared about and his Jedi master. He says that he's come to have this understanding of Ventress, and that he found a way to forgive her. So here the book is really starting to play with us, right? We saw Vos actually succumb to the dark side, only to find him again, where he says that wasn't true. Ventress is sure it's true. Ventress isn't as sure it's true. Vos says it is true, but it's actually that it was true, and that it's not true anymore. And there's these wheels are turning as to whether or not we can actually trust our Jedi friend after everything we've gone through, and we get very little time from Vos's perspective. The book is really kind of presenting all of these different cards, some of them contradictory, asking you to pick one, and not really giving you the perspective that would tell you the truth. Even in this conversation, which on the one hand helps to make things make more sense, right? That what Ventress sensed was real, her concern for him was real, but that he came back from it. And even lying to the Jedi isn't great, but it's understandable in the circumstances he would have gone through. Even still, there's some things that bother me. Just that he says he forgave her and is sure she will forgive him. That he's phrasing this almost as if he's trying to convince her to forgive him instead of asking for forgiveness, instead of like really saying what he did to her. You know, he's both admitting while also being sure that they're going to work through this. And is that a confidence? Is he projecting this sense of, we're going to make it, I know we're going to make it, I want you to really feel how committed I am to it? Or is he really trying to push her and manipulate her? And all of that depends on how you feel Vos actually is right now. This is actually some really incredible writing in that you can make a really plausible case either way. You can make a really plausible case for the Jedi who just kind of screwed up for a day, found his way back, and really overcame something, and you make a really good case for the fallen Jedi that's really messing with everyone's heads. And I felt like every couple of pages, you know, I'm trying to be honest, I have read the book. I remember something really big that happens at the end of the book, but I really don't remember how we get to that point at the end of the book. So even now, as I'm rereading, I'm like, I am trying to remember, because I'm remembering feeling all of these different ways. I just don't remember how it all resolves. So it's been kind of interesting to go back through. And Golden does a really good job of painting it viable either way you spin it. Voss leaves his conversation saying that he doesn't really belong to the Jedi. He wants to stay helping the Jedi because he wants to help them take down Dooku, to help undo some of the bad that he did by helping Dooku for a time, but then he'll leave the Jedi and he'll run off with Ventress. And that's something Ventress really wants to believe. She really wants to still be able to feel the way she does about him. She's just not sure she can. You know, the person who spent all this time kind of lying and manipulating others is kind of on the other end of it right now, and we're seeing her try to navigate that in the same way we are. And it's making for some compelling stuff. Now our three Jedi, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Voss, go on their next mission. Of course, Voss does not mention that he had had a little meet and greet with Ventress, nor what he had told her. They're off to find a listening post to see what Dooku might be up to. These listening posts, we saw something like it in the Rookies episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars. It's basically a radio relay, a place where it can send messages from across the galaxy, but it's also just a spot along a region where it can keep an eye on everything and try to track some ship movements. Obviously something really big if they can find one and take one that used to belong to Dooku. Anakin invites himself along, as he does, and we get this really funny trio as they continue to have all sorts of antics together. At one point, Anakin even tells Voss that he's happy to have the old Jedi back. So the Jedi are more and more convinced that Voss is the guy he always was. And what's interesting here is either way you spin it, he's not. He's either a dark agent manipulating everyone, or in the best case, he's a good guy again, but he really isn't with the Jedi. He really isn't the man he used to be. Either way, he's kind of playing a part for whoever he's with at this point in time. Once again, they're met with little resistance, and once again, this is a little bit suspicious. Anakin is bursting in and getting into all kinds of craziness, and Obi-Wan has this line of, wow, the Force must be protecting him because his impulsiveness would have gotten him killed, would have gotten anybody else killed. And it's a joke, it's a throwaway line, it's such an Obi-Wan line, but like other Obi-Wan lines, such as the, why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me, Obi-Wan is absolutely on point, you know? If Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, if he has some sort of great destiny before him, the Force is not going to let him perish before he gets his opportunity to do whatever it is he's going to do within the Force, however you might interpret that. But the idea to me is that right now the Force is not done with him, and is going to make sure that he gets to wherever he needs to be, even if decisions at the end of that road are ultimately his. They go deeper inside the very empty listening post, and eventually find a barracks. Most of this listening post would have been droids, but there would have been a couple of flesh and bone type of folk there. Within the barracks, Voss finds a comb, which he's able to use to read for one of the officers who would have been there, and they find out that the base had been cleared out 2 weeks ago. Voss thinks that maybe it's Dooku getting rid of things that Voss would have known about, so that he can't give any kind of information to the Jedi or to the Republic because Dooku's going to shut down anything that's relevant to him. Obi-Wan thinks something much more sinister is going on and worries that they have a mole within the Republic, something that he voices pretty openly because he's very sure it's not Voss. But Chapter 34 is where all the drama happens, because Obi-Wan takes his concerns about a mole to Obi-Wan and Yoda, the only other Jedi he's convinced could not possibly be a part of a conspiracy. It's hard enough for the Jedi to feel this way in general, but they have been rocked before. This very chapter brings up the betrayal of Baris Offi, who framed Ahsoka and is a big part of the reason why Ahsoka is no longer in the Jedi Order. The Jedi have to come to terms with the fact that people from within their own ranks could be causing problems, that they've seen issues like this happen over and over again, and we're about to take a very extreme turn. Ever subjugated to the role of Cranky Pants in this novel, Mace Windu brings up a question of, what if it's Voss? If I have one critique about this novel, it's that I don't think Mace gets a very fair shake. Mace is the one who brings up assassination, Mace is the one who brings up, Voss being bad, all of these different things, but the problem is, at the end of the day, Mace is not asking bad questions. He's just being framed as somebody who's so sure of them that there's already something wrong there. But the idea of asking, could Quinlan Voss still be bad, is not a bad question to ask, even if you are somebody who's really rooting and pulling for him to still be the good guy. There's nothing wrong with really asking this question. If you're wondering who the mole is, the most obvious person would be the guy that you pulled back from Dooku's ship. Yes, people can sense him and all of that, but it's not a bad idea to just check on him. I mean, Voss effectively got to come back, no trial, no investigation, just saying, hey, I'm fine, and everybody kind of reading his mind and going, yo, you're cool, and then he gets to go back to being a Jedi, which is great if he is truly innocent, but not great if he's not. And even if he's truly innocent, maybe pushing him back into the field so soon isn't the best idea. Maybe he needs a little bit of R&R. Maybe he can miss out on the end of the war because he's seen too much of it already. So to me, when I read this type of thing, I don't think there's a problem with Mace asking these questions. I think if there's an issue with Mace here, and be it because that's how his character is, or be it because maybe there's a little bit of misrepresentation with his character because he's playing kind of a specific role within the story. His issue is that he is already sure of the answer to these questions. Talking about whether or not they should assassinate Dooku, people might disagree with me on this because it seems so obviously not the Jedi way. I don't think it's a wrong question to ask. I think it's wrong to go into that question already knowing the answer. I don't think it's wrong to ask, could Quinlan Vos still be evil? I think it's wrong going into that question to already know the answer. And to that point, there's a third bullet point, but we'll get to that when we get to that part of the story. But there's something I really want to discuss here with the nature of just the type of things that Jedi have to juggle and deal with. Obviously, during this conversation, Obi-Wan is very pro-Voss, very sure that he is not evil. Yoda is kind of stuck in the middle as the guy who's ultimately responsible for everybody, but he's trying to figure all this out. Yoda doesn't want to believe Voss is bad, but he does think it looks kind of sketchy that the two places they happen to have gone happen to have had little resistance. Now, the conspiracy mind in my brain goes, well, what if Dooku is trying to make Voss look bad? What if Dooku knows where these people might likely look, and so he's intentionally set these places up to fail? It's hard to say, but, again, that's what this book is doing really well, which is spinning these conspiracy wheels round and round so that there's a viable answer down multiple different paths, that there's no clear, obvious thing, no one's clearly and obviously wrong, that you're really going page by page until you can figure out what's going to happen next. As they talk, they decide to call up Desh and see if there's any new information, and the newest wrinkle is that the bombs that blew up the supply warehouse were Republic bombs. They were not Separatist munitions. Now, could it be that the Separatists just found some on a battlefield somewhere, pirated some from a convoy somewhere, and used them because it's what they had? Absolutely. The book makes a point of saying that happens in war all the time. Or could it be that Voss decided to blow up the warehouse, and of course Republic bombs would be the ones he had access to, and was just counting on no one finding it? It's hard to say, and it's what this book continues to make you think about. Time jumps forward slightly as Obi-Wan goes to talk to Yoda again. One thing, just as a technical note, that I really liked is we got the Jedi Code in this passage, which canonizes the Jedi Code that existed in Legends, the no emotion, there's peace. It's just kind of cool for me to know that that's still canon, because it actually hasn't popped up in that many sources since then, although it has popped up in others. It's not the only canon place for it, but it's nice to see, and just to know it's still there. But Obi-Wan gets some bad news. Yoda has gone to Voss and sensed the darkness within him. I kind of wish we could have gotten the scene ourselves instead of staying with Obi-Wan's perspective, but I also understand it. But Yoda sensed some bad vibes off of Voss and is convinced that Voss has actually fallen to the dark side this whole time. He kind of did a Jedi handshake and was able to read him and get a better sense of it. Now, of course, could this just be the darkness that Voss didn't tell the Jedi about, right? If he told Ventress the truth, that he had fallen to the dark side, and he's trying to work his way back without help, well, that very well could be what Yoda sensed, and because Voss never talked about it and lied, Yoda's coming to the conclusion that he is still lying about it and still hiding it, which isn't a horrible assumption to make, but I think where they go from here might be a little bit wrong. I think we're seeing cases again with Mace where they're not asking wrong questions, they're not making bad guesses, it's just their response to it isn't exactly working properly. Because what happens is Yoda says they have to deal with it, and they call a special session of the Jedi Council. In this council, they say that they really need to make sure Voss is punished. They're still reeling from Baris Offi's betrayal and everything that happened with that, which, one, signifies the fact that the Jedi have gone through this before and that they're dealing with this again, but it also brings to mind the idea of public perception that the Jedi have to handle. And this, of course, is part of Palpatine's plan to bring down the Jedi. not only to have public perception be messed up with them, but to have the Jedi have to consider that as well. Because if you think about it, if you think about this, if you were a citizen on Coruscant, or just in the galaxy in general, that you have this big, powerful, secretive Jedi Order, and now we have another person from the Jedi who's left the Jedi to go fight with the Separatists. What's going on? And why did the Jedi come back and just basically get a hug and say, sorry you fell to the dark side and killed a bunch of people, we feel really bad for you. If you think about the way we treat people who kind of get off on crimes here, whether it be any kind of abuse charge or anything in the real world, we rip those places to shreds. And if they're letting guilty people who have hurt others and will hurt others again, that's understandable. So we here, who like Quinlan Vos and want the Jedi to be a certain way, it's really easy to go, oh my gosh, this is how the Jedi are losing themselves. But if you think about it, not from a Jedi perspective, but a person on the ground perspective, it would start to be concerning, and the Jedi have to understand that. And they have to walk that line of, how do we hold people accountable, especially when we have this extrasensory perception about whether or not their heart is really changed. But for them, they go to the point of saying Quinlan Vos should be executed for crimes that they're not entirely sure what they are. I mean, yes, he was potentially this Admiral Enigma, in which case he was with Dooku, so he was clearly doing bad stuff, but again, we're seeing no trial. But the thing with execution is, yes, it sounds terrible. This is even worse than straight-up assassination, because now they're talking about one of their own. But let me ask you this question, and I'm not advocating for Jedi executions, nor do I really think they should do them, but before you kind of jump in and say how horrible this is, think about some of these dark side characters. Think about what Maul went on to do and how he evaded capture over and over again. Think about what would have happened if they really caught Palpatine. What do you do with a really powerful person that can manipulate minds and levitate objects? What would imprisonment look like for Quinlan Vos? To keep the galaxy safe, he would basically have to live in a coma for the rest of his life. Otherwise, every day you run the risk of a really, really dangerous person who's capable of killing hundreds, if not thousands of people with their mind and nothing else, getting out there on the streets. What are the Jedi supposed to do? It makes me think about how the real reason why Ahsoka was kicked out of the Jedi Order in that arc was so that she could be tried as a citizen. That the Jedi decided that there was enough evidence that she needed to be let go so she could be on trial. And a trial that wasn't a Jedi tribunal. That she needed to face justice from the government that's supposed to represent the people. Now, of course, this was a play directly into Palpatine's hands, especially because she was being tried by Tarkin. But now we have a case of the Jedi don't want to go through that again. But what exactly are they supposed to do? I don't think execution is good for the Jedi soul, or the Jedi Order at large, and I don't know that that's the answer, but not even considering it, you have to weigh the dangers of what this person's gonna be. I mean, we go to Mace standing over Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith saying he has control of the Senate and the courts, he's too dangerous to be left alive. And that's what causes Anakin to stand up and try to defend Palpatine. But the plot twist there is that Palpatine didn't need to be defended. He was completely in control in that moment. And he did have control of the Senate and the courts. This really is the genius of Palpatine's plan, in that there was really no good option for the Jedi at any given point in time. The problem here with Vos, to me, is, again, not that they're entertaining the question, but that they're kind of going into that question already knowing the answer. Obi-Wan's able to kind of turn things around and come up with another idea to try to prove whether or not Vos is actually innocent or guilty, something that Yoda seems to be very grateful of, and that's where the story is going to go from here. Obi-Wan comes up with this plan to go after Dooku again with Vos, and if Vos really is working for Dooku, he will have to reveal himself in that moment. But Obi-Wan is told that he needs to be ready to turn on Vos if he turns on them. And it makes me think of Yoda's line again in Revenge of the Sith of "Destroy the Sith we must." That this idea that at some point the Jedi are moving towards this notion that they have to make a stand somewhere, and at some point they have to stop, because people are basically manipulating Jedi mercy. But that's really what I have to say about the story this week. Not a whole lot to say, like I said, until everything kind of reveals itself when we know how things really go. For next week, we're going to read chapters 35, 36, and 37, keeping up the trend of 3 chapters at a time. Just as a scheduling note, I have some kind of wacky stuff going on with work right now. It's going to make my ability to get these videos out on time a little bit harder. I'm gonna aim for Monday, but don't be surprised if, like this video, is out a little bit later in the week. We're not gonna take a full week off because we're so close to the end. I just want to finish it. But please forgive me if I'm a little bit off on how long it takes me to get this video out to you guys. If you're not already, please follow us on the socials or join the Discord. It's where I post to let you guys know if there's some sort of scheduling issue. And with that, I will talk to you guys at some point next week.